When we're wanting to apply a fertilizer or maybe an amendment to our lawn, something like lime, wouldn't it be nice if we knew exactly what the soil needed instead of just taking a guess on fertilizers or soil amendments? Today I'm going to show you an easy way to get a glimpse of what nutrients your soil might need by doing a simple soil test. So this year I want to get a good glimpse of everything possible that's going on in my soil. So I picked a couple of labs here. I'm going to do a test on my front yard and I'm going to send those to 2 different labs. You don't have to do this. Just for me, I'm kind of interested in the process as far as how different labs might do that. So I'm just kind of trying to learn to make sure I can recommend the best thing for you guys. So I'm going to be sending one of these to Spectrum, which I believe is in Ohio. And then we actually have a Waypoint location here about an hour away from where I'm located. I happen to be driving that way in the next couple days. I'm actually going to drop that off at their actual specific location. I won't have to pay for any shipping or anything. So on the Waypoint thing, you can look on their website. They have a bunch of different locations around the country, so maybe you have one fairly close to you, and then you could actually just go drop it off to them. I'll show you the process here. It's going to be pretty much similar for both of these tests. It'll just be a different form to fill out depending on where you're sending it. But let's go through the process. What I want you to do first is grab maybe an ice cream pail, something plastic, clean it up a little bit. I just used dish soap here, cleaned mine, and then let it air dry. Make sure that it's air dry so that when we put our samples in there, we're not going to get any muddy mess going on in there. The second thing that I highly recommend is one of these tools right here. Now this is called a soil probe. I bought one of these a couple years ago. It's a slight bit of an investment. I think it's around $50. You might be able to find one cheaper locally, but as far as like buying one online, that's about the prices that I've seen. But I highly recommend it because I've used this multiple times, not only for soil testing, but also different times of the year when I just want to go take a sample, see kind of maybe where the moisture level is at in the yard. They're just very useful in checking on a lot of things. So you spend the $50 one time, you get this metal tool. It's going to last you forever as long as you don't find a way to break it. If you do buy from the link down in the description below, I get a couple dollars maybe at most from each of these sales. So I'm not pushing this for any other reason other than I think it's a great tool to have. So what if you don't happen to have one of those soil probes, you're not willing to get one right now? It's okay, you can still do a different method here. You can actually take a little garden spade or a shovel of some kind and actually go down into the yard there and cut a little slice out of it. Take off your material there, remove the grass and thatch and all the root system. But we're going to want to do this about 10 to 15 times in our zones. So you can see right there how that soil probe tool comes in very handy when you can just easily grab a core, take all that material off there, put your soil into the bucket, and you're good to go. You keep moving forward. So when we actually go out and take these samples with this tool, it's going to tell us the depth that we want to be taking these at. And most of the time for turf grass, this is going to be around the 4-inch mark, sometimes 4 to 6 inches depending on what it recommends. So for today, I'm going to make a little mark here on this thing. I'm going to measure 4 to 6 inches out on here, and then I'm going to make a mark so when I stick this thing down into the ground, I know exactly where that 6-inch mark at max is in the 4 to 6 inch range. From there, I'm going to show you kind of where you want to take your samples and make sure you get a good variety. Next step is I'm just going to grab some gloves here, and the reason that I'm doing that, by the way, these are the same ones that Pete uses on his channel as well. I really like these gloves. So the reason that I'm doing that is that just to make sure I don't have any contamination on my hands or anything, that when I pick up the sample it'll be clean, and that's just how I'm going to do it. Also, if you're wondering what this little green spot is right here, I did a little mowing yesterday to do a test spot. So you can see the green that's growing underneath all of this kind of brown stuff that's coming out. This is pretty easy here, but I'm just going to take these sections and I'm going to go in a zigzag pattern and grab a couple of cores from this section here on the side yard. Then I'll move to the front yard and grab probably 5 to 7 more there, and I'll take a few out of the little areas near the streets there too. And then I will show you kind of what I do with those, mix them, and make sure I remove all the debris out of that thing. Okay, so I have this full core here. Now what I'm going to do is just grab this Again, if we're taking down to 6 inches, we want 4 to 6 inches taken. So you can see I actually have roots coming off of there. We're gonna get rid of that. You can leave it in the yard, let it break down, or you can just put it in another bucket if you want to. And then here, I'm just keeping these little sections of cores, and that's what I'm actually gonna put in for the sample. And I will, like I said, I'll take about 10 to 15 of those, and we'll try to remove any of these roots that are in here and just put that soil into this bucket. And that's pretty much what you do. Here's all the cores that I pulled from the front yard. Again, we're only taking this section here. When you put this down into the ground about that far, we're only grabbing this section from about here to here. So that's the area right there that we want to grab onto. So you can see I've got here about that. Some of them are a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller, just depends. So now we got to go and actually get all of the root system out of these as much as possible. Any grass that's in there, any debris, any gravel, any rocks, all that stuff we want to try to remove. So I'm just going to try to break these apart very carefully. You can see like my soil here pretty much just kind of crumbles apart, and we're just going to kind of sift through this a little bit here. It's a little bit more clay, you can tell in that piece. And this is the whole reason why we're getting a sample of such a large size, because even different areas of my yard here, you can tell this is more clay based, and maybe a few feet away from it, it might be more like this, where there's still clay in there, but it really crumbles apart. Go ahead and just go through there and kind of break this up as much as you can. So I have it pretty much stirred up here. There's a few larger chunks yet, a lot of that's the clay. You can see I've got a lot of little pieces of grass in there, a lot of little roots. So I'm just getting rid of those. Just kind of shake it around here, get rid of any of that fine stuff on top. So you can see, got looks pretty good. Alright, I've got a clean Ziploc bag now. I've written my name on it, and it says front on it, so whatever you're going to use for your actual name on there, just make sure it's consistent, and then I'll show you. We're going to put that same just front code onto the paperwork. So I have this little scoop. You can use anything. We're looking for about 1 cup of soil. So I'm not exactly sure what size this is, but I'll take a couple of these and just scoop them in here. And during this process, if you see any roots in there or anything in there, just go ahead and take those out. Now we're going to take all the air out of here.
So when we're sending in these samples, there's a form for each one of these places that you just need to fill out. It's very simple. Of course, add your contact info up at the top, which I haven't done yet. We need to put that code on there that we put on the bag and make sure that it matches what's on here on the actual paperwork. So I put front on there. For Waypoint as well, we're going to be doing the S3M test. That's going to show us pretty much everything we need there. And for the Spectrum one, same thing. We're using the same code front. And there's also codes on both of these for if you want recommendations for your grass type. Just look down at the bottom of the form. It'll tell you what code to put in there as far as your grass type. If you want a recommendation on fertilizer, stuff like that. And for Spectrum, I'm choosing the T3 test, which will show us pretty much everything there. That's the process for those forms.
So again, I'm treating my yard as kind of 2 separate sections. If you were doing your whole yard as one thing, then you would just take samples from the front, from the back, mix those all together, and that would be your sample there from the whole yard. But again, I'm doing things a little bit differently up front. But really, it's a very straightforward process, as I said. From here, what we do is we take those bags, we put them in a box of some kind that's going to be secure for shipping, and then you'll just need to send it to their address. A lot of these places don't have pricing on their website. I know it seems a bit odd, so you'll have to actually contact them if you want to see specific prices, but I can give you ballparks. For the Waypoint one, I'm seeing for my area here, Some people have told me it's around $17, $18 after it's all said and done. For Spectrum, for the full T3, which I'm going to be looking at there, I believe it's around $30. So if you want to get for sure pricing, you can contact them. So again, send them your samples, then they will actually take a look at them, do the testing, and then they'll contact you to find out how you want to do the payment and that kind of thing. That's pretty much how it works for these systems here. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks so much for watching this video. We'll see you next time.